Let us help you start your day. Good morning. Efforts to get aid into Venezuela descend into violence. Kim Jong-un and President Trump prepare for their second conference and Hollywood suits up for the Oscars. Here's the latest. At least 2 people were killed and 15 were injured in violent clashes along the country's borders with Colombia and Brazil as opposition activists, led by Juan Guaido, tried to clear the way for humanitarian aid to enter the country. The Venezuela National Guard, which has so far remained loyal to President Nicolas Maduro, fired tear gas and live ammunition at the groups. Only a smattering of aid made it through. Context: food and medicine is desperately needed in the country, where a worsening economic and political crisis has left many basics unavailable. Getting the aid into Venezuela would have been a signal that Mr. Maduro's grip on power was loosening, and would have been a symbolic victory for Mr. Guaido, who declared himself the legitimate president of Venezuela last month. What next? Mr. Maduro severed diplomatic ties with Colombia, ordering diplomats from the neighboring country to leave within 24 hours. Mr. Guaido and the U.S. Vice President, Mike Pence, are scheduled to meet with the Lima group of Latin American nations today to discuss new ways to pressure Mr. Maduro. North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un, is en route from the capital city of Pyongyang to Vietnam, where he will meet with President Trump on Wednesday to discuss the North's nuclear weapons program. Mr. Kim has chosen a vintage mode of travel, a train journey south through China, followed by a winding, mountainous road trip to Hanoi. Mr. Kim's own jet is a decades-old Soviet-made plane that is short of spare parts. But borrowing a plane from China, as he did for his last meeting with President Trump, in Singapore, showcases North Korea's reliance on China. The U.S. perspective: the discussions in Hanoi, the Vietnamese capital, will be a major test of Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's leadership. He must prevent Mr. Trump from undermining any U.S. leverage over North Korea, while remaining in the president's good graces. Goal: after the last summit meeting, Mr. Trump declared that there is no longer a nuclear threat from North Korea, a statement U.S. intelligence agencies disputed. This time, the U.S. is trying to extract a timetable for denuclearization. The business elite that fueled so much of the country's economic growth are increasingly worried that Beijing won't pursue the liberalization needed to keep the momentum going. Since President Xi Jinping took over the Communist Party in 2012, control of every aspect of society, including the private sector, has increased. Some entrepreneurs have been disappeared by the government to assist in the anti-corruption campaigns. Our New World columnist, Li Yuan, found that pessimism is so high that some businesspeople are drawing comparisons to Venezuela, where government control of the economy ruined its prospects. By the numbers, only a third of China's rich people say they are confident in the country's future, according to a recent study by a Shanghai-based research firm. Nearly half of the hundreds of wealthy individuals surveyed said they were considering migrating or have already begun the process. Economics and trade: China's economy is slowing, and the trade war with the U.S. has further pinched growth. President Trump says that two sides are moving closer to an agreement and that he will meet with Mr. Xi in Florida next month to hammer out final details. The Academy Awards will kick off shortly and we'll bring you live coverage of the ceremony here. Predictions: our awards season columnist believes the Netflix film Roma will go home with the Best Picture prize. Here's a list of all of his forecasts. The good, the bad, the controversies. We look back at the artistic merits of this year's Best Picture nominees and all the beef surrounding those titles. The Vatican: Pope Francis, closing out a landmark meeting on clerical sexual abuse in the Roman Catholic Church, called for an all-out battle against the abuse of minors but didn't offer the concrete policies demanded by many of the faithful. Saudi Arabia: the kingdom appointed a princess as its new ambassador to the U.S., the first time a woman has been named to such a post. The move seemed aimed at hitting reset on relations between the two countries, which soured over the killing of the dissident Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. India-Pakistan: 7 decades after the British divided India to create Pakistan, the first museum devoted to the chaos that followed, mass migration, murders, riots and rapes, opened in Amritsar, a city near the border. Curating its exhibits was fraught with risks for the eyewitnesses interviewed and for religious minorities in India. Japan: the country is combating the worst measles outbreak in years, with a total of 167 cases reported as of February 10, according to health officials. Many of the cases were people connected to a religious group that promotes alternative healing and avoids vaccinations.